Hey guys, today I'm doing things a little bit differently, as you can probably see, and that's because today I'm talking about RPG series that need a revival. These are dead series, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are, a little bit about the games themselves, and if I can, I'm going to try to talk about what killed them. So, to start things off, let's talk a little bit about Lunar here. So, Lunar is a game series that it is pronounced Lunar. It is not Lunar. It is the name of a world in which the game takes place, the world of Lunar. And they say it in cutscenes as Lunar, therefore it is, in fact, Lunar. So, Lunar is a game that normally comes on 4 discs. I do believe I am missing the soundtrack, unfortunately, but that's all right. The game, when you buy it complete like this, it comes with a lot of extra stuff that's just really cool. Working Designs in general just puts other companies to shame when it comes to collector's editions, because they actually come with some really nice things and not just, well, a soundtrack or something. Interesting thing about the Lunar series, it died a long time ago, but they're still continuing to make newer games, like Lunar Dragon Song, for instance, or Lunar DS. It's not exactly a real Lunar game, in my opinion. The thing about the Lunar series is that they were developed by Studio Alex, originally for the Sega CD. They were the creative force behind this. So, Game Arts is the one who is currently making these games. You can see their logo on these games. They're being localized by Xseed these days and Ubisoft. But the thing about Studio Alex is they don't exist anymore. And they don't exist because Studio Alex was sued into oblivion by Game Arts, which is why we're never going to see another real Lunar game ever again. And that's just it's a shame. And I think it's, when it says here, right here, from the creators of Lunar Silver Star, I feel like that's a little disingenuous to say that. It's more like from the destroyers of Lunar Silver Star. But yeah, Studio Alex, they just don't really exist anymore, and it's sad. So, Lunar 1 and 2, you were amazing, but that time has passed. Another game series that you guys know that I love, I actually already reviewed each of these entries in the series, starting with the original Breath of Fire for Super Nintendo. This was a game series that I found early on in my search for more RPGs after Earthbound turned me onto them. I didn't really get into Breath of Fire 2 until after I reviewed it, and there's actually like a fan retranslation of this and remaster of the whole game, really, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. I think I'd like to revisit that remaster because the translation of this game was probably its weakest point that I recall. Breath of Fire 3 was obviously a PlayStation game, but it also had a release on PlayStation Portable. It's a very faithful port. It actually has widescreen support, so it's actually a really good way to play Breath of Fire 3, and that's what I played for my review of it. And of course we had Breath of Fire 4, which was the pinnacle of amazing pixel art, and even today I think it's still probably one of the best examples of pixel art done just to an amazing degree. I only wish that the bosses and that the dragons were also pixel art during battles instead of the low polygon 3D models. And then, well, we start to see the downfall here of the Breath of Fire series with Dragon Quarter. Unfortunately, the thing about Dragon Quarter was that it was a decent game. It was just a very poor example of a Breath of Fire game. And then after Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, we ended up seeing Breath of Fire VI, which was a mobile game that it looks terrible. I've got this feeling that we're never going to see a return to proper Breath of Fire. Even though they've made a game recently, I consider this a dead series. And if I could, I would wave a magic wand and we would have more games like Breath of Fire 3 and 4. This is a series that I didn't really get into too much until last year when I started playing Suikoden for the Summer of Suikoden. And I've currently been making my way through. Last year I made my way through Suikoden 1, 2, and Suikoden 3. It's a fun game. It's a fun game series. And just recently I played through Suikoden 4 Tactics, which were both pretty fun, and those reviews are just around the corner. And currently I'm playing through Suikoden V, and it's unfortunate the illustrator for this art for Suikoden V has actually passed away, so we're not going to see this character artist anymore, unfortunately, Kaori Fujita, because these were very skillful illustrations. Anyways, I think what killed Suikoden, though, is company greed. People say that the series started to go downhill around between Suikoden 3 and 4, but that Suikoden 5 so far has been astounding. And I feel like it was rebounding the series, but unfortunately, Konami is currently pursuing pachi-slot games as a primary method of acquiring money these days. So it looks like that's not something that we're going to see return anytime soon. More dead series. Chrono Trigger, guys. This was a game that it just blew my mind when I played it for the first time, and it still continues to blow my mind, along with its sequel, Chrono Cross. I know a lot of people don't really care for Chrono Cross, but in my opinion, Chrono Cross, it's held up very well last time I played it, which has been for a very long time, actually. But they're both phenomenal, and I would definitely recommend giving these games a shot, especially Chrono Cross, because it doesn't seem to get nearly the credit that it deserves these days, especially back when it was released. People heavily criticized it for not being Chrono Trigger 2, because it's definitely not. It is its own self-contained story that takes place in the same world overall, but the connections are very difficult to find. You have to really go digging to find them. It's one of those things that you have to think about for a long while, and then you start to realize the effect that the first game had on the sequel. I remember with Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger, the last sign of life that we saw a long while back was that they were going to be making Chrono Break. Chrono Break was patented by Square Enix, or it was copyrighted in the Japanese studios. It was Chrono Brake, I think. Yeah, we just never ended up hearing anything more about it. The copyright lapsed, and here we are. And then, of course, we also have the Dark Cloud series. Dark Cloud 1 and 2. Dark Cloud 2 was called Dark Chronicle in other regions, and they're very loosely related. Both of the heroes in these games have what's called an Atlamelia stone, and they use it to rebuild the world that's been destroyed. These are some pretty old reviews that I've done, but the games have really stuck with me over the years. There have been some spiritual successors since then. Rogue Galaxy plays a lot like Dark Cloud 2, in my opinion, as far as like just battle mechanics go. But man, we've been holding out for Dark Cloud 3 since forever, especially since my last reviews. But there's no more after Dark Cloud 2. But luckily, Dark Cloud 1 and 2 can both be purchased on the PlayStation 4 right now. Usually they go on sale pretty often for about $5 on PlayStation 4, and I think it's definitely worth $5. Moving on are a couple of games. I know that there's other entries in this series, Grandia 3, Grandia Extreme, but we haven't seen a new Grandia in a very long time. This was made by Game Arts, and the games are fantastic. Grandia 1 really just blew me away. But the story of Justin and the sense of adventure that they give when you play the game has just been insane to me. And I recommend anybody who hasn't played the game, seriously, this is probably the game that has surprised me the most throughout my duration on reviewing on YouTube. I always recommend it when I get the chance. Grandia 2 on Dreamcast was a ton of fun. It also exists on PlayStation 2, but I've heard that the Dreamcast version is the way to go, and I really enjoyed my time with it as well. And then lastly, how many people didn't see this coming? This is probably my most wanted revival series of all time. Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, and the Grandstream Saga. These games are in fact related, despite a few protests that I've gotten from commenters over the years. Those people are wrong. These are in fact a connected saga of games. They take place in different worlds, but they are thematically linked, and they were all the brainchild of Tomoyoshi Miyazaki. And when Grandstream Saga came out, it sold really well. It was made by Shade. And as we've come to learn in the untold histories of Japanese game developers, we learned that Shade came into existence because of the fact that Quintet was working with Nintendo for a very long time, and Nintendo at the time was very difficult to do business with if you also worked with other consoles. They ended up forming Shade in order to be able to make games for other platforms. But the thing about that is that it didn't really feel much like a trilogy, like part of the Terra Enigma Soul Blazer series, at least in my opinion. There are still definitely people out there who love the game. Jimmy Hoppa included is one of those. But unfortunately, after this game came out, we haven't really heard too much from Tomoyoshi Miyazaki anymore, the scenario writer for the series, and he gave feedback on this, but did not make the driving story behind it. And I think that shows in the execution of the game. If I could just make something happen, if there was some sort of money infusion that we could give this series that would bring back Tomoyoshi Miyazaki back into game development for games like Terra Enigma or like Illusion of Gaia, then God, if I could personally fund this, I would in a heartbeat. These are some of the most fun games on the Super Nintendo. Some of the most fun action RPGs, far better in my opinion than Secret of Mana, might be better than Seiken Densetsu 3, but I think some people would probably argue with me on that. All of these games, all of these series that I've been talking about so far, if I could, all of them, I just bring them right back, and I would love to play more in these series. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining me. I know this is kind of a strange, kind of a different sort of video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. And maybe I'll do something else like this down the line as well. So thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.